All right, welcome to PSR, and we are here with Tony and Pat DeSabato, two local runners, and Tony's a coach, Patrick is a runner at Columbia. Before we get started, why don't you just tell me a little bit about yourselves, how you get started in track, and Tony, why don't you start us off, and so Pat got started a little bit,
Okay.
close to the father.
Yeah, I started actually started when I was in my 30s. A friend of mine moved into town, and he was running a couple nights a week, and I started running with him a couple miles at a time. And before I knew it, I was running 11 minutes for 2 miles, and I said, "Wow, I can do this." And from there, I moved up and started running marathons. So because of a friend.
That's awesome. So you got a late start,
Yeah,
and
late start.
you still developed that passion pretty deeply,
Right.
as a, in your sport, as we've been able to see. What about you, Pat?
Well, you're kind of looking at the reason for me. Both my parents were runners,
Okay.
and my dad was, big into the Philadelphia distance run. He was race director for a while, and my mom was a big part of the Haverford AC, like the original track club there. So, I grew up around it. Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings were built around my parents' long runs. We would go to the distance run. The one race that I've been going to since I was born was in Peoria, Illinois. It's called the Steamboat Classic.
Okay.
Which is actually the first stop of our trip, big trip this summer. But I guess I would have been like 8, right? And I said, "Dad, I want to run this year or next year." And he said, "All right, well, let's go out for a quarter mile." And ran once a week, twice a week, occasionally, but mostly just once. Built up slowly to 4 miles. My first 4-miler was on the Lower Merion track. I ran I think it was 46:37, and so it was really slow. And yeah, ran race for the Tier 5K to get ready for it, and then Steamboat. And since then, I've been, ran once a week until I got to middle school, and then started racing for the Penn Central team, and kept it going ever since.
Talk about that building up slow, which I think is real important for younger runners. I mean, we're kind of faced with the catch-22. Do you see they start playing lacrosse at age 5? You see so many kids start running at age 5 for various track clubs and teams. By the time before they even make it to high school, they burn out. So I think that was probably pretty smart. You once a week, you learn to enjoy it, and you grow from there.
What we did, because for that very reason, he was young, and 4 miles is pretty long distance for a kid that young. We ran a quarter mile to begin with, and then I increased his distance a quarter mile a week until we got to 4 miles.
Okay.
And then when he got to 4
Pretty
miles,
consistently, yeah.
then we started to work on getting a little faster. And as he said, he started at 46 minutes.
And then Steamboat that year I ran 37 or something.
Right.
So slow beginnings, but obviously
Worked out pretty well for you.
yeah. And there were weekends where I didn't want to run, and he said, "Pat, you have a commitment to run once a week, and we're training for something." And I would fight him, and my mom would be like, "Don't make him do it. It's okay." And we eventually would, and so it's easy for a 9-year-old to be like, "I don't want to run. I'll sit around and play games." But yeah, it was good for me because it developed I started to love running, but slowly, and was able to continue, staying into it until now and forever.
Yeah, that's awesome. So currently you run for Columbia, and what's your focus there?
5K, 10K, mainly 10K and cross country. Definitely always been more of a cross country guy. Probably, ultimately, will be a marathoner.
Okay. Wake up early this morning, watch the women's before.
I did, yeah.
I DVR'd it. That was smart.
Yeah, nice. I woke up at 6:45 and caught it right when there was still a big pack, and watched the end. It was exciting.
It's a good race.
Absolutely. So yeah, but that's kind of where I'll probably end up. But right now, all my focus is on cross country. I'm running over 90 miles a week right now. I'll be up to 100 in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And our team is looking really good. We made nationals as a team for the first time last year, and anything short of a top 15 finish in nationals this year, we'd be disappointed.
We want that high bar.
Yeah, we have big goals, and we have a team, and definitely not only the individual runners, but we have a really good team dynamic. We have a lot of solidarity, and we're going to definitely do what we need to do to get ourselves there. I'm so excited. It's going to be a great year.
Good to hear. We'll be looking forward to watching. Now, one of the main reasons I brought you guys here, we chose to interview you, is that you went on what I would say was probably the track fan's dream road trip. So tell me exactly how that idea started and where you went, and give me some of the highlights.
Well, we went to the trials in 08 and
Okay.
had the trip of our lives. And we were beginning to plan this trip this year, and Pat came up with the idea.
Yeah, well, so Columbia track team, we do a lot of road trips. We'll, you know, we go up to Maine every summer. We've done a lot of trips to the Midwest. We drive down to Texas every winter. So I started doing that last year as part of the team thing, you know. And then as I kind of started doing that, I started liking it. And I said, God, like, you know, just going to trials is cool. And don't we want to, like, one up 2008 somehow, you know? We got to make it better, right? So why don't we drive out? I don't know. Not a bad idea. So, you know, we thought it out and planned it, and, you know, that Peoria, that steamboat race was perfect first stop. It's like 13 hours from here, and it, you know, got us into the Midwest, and, you know, we planned it from there. So that was the first stop. We went all through the you know, the Rocky Mountain states, like South Dakota, the Plains, and the Black Hills and the Badlands, went through Jackson, Wyoming, and Yukon, made our way to Eugene, and that was like the end goal. And it was, I mean, I'd say the trials were, I mean, it's the best track meet you can go to in the country, you know, it's a week, I mean, everyone's there, you know, and everyone there is a track nerd, you know?
Yeah.
So we love that, obviously.
What would you say the number one race that you saw was?
Number one race.
Well, I have a point of view on that. I think the men's 5,000.
Oh,
was
men's
pretty
5,000
spectacular.
awesome. But the women's 5,000 was pretty spectacular too. And
Heartbreaking and exhilarating at the same
yeah,
time.
and the men's 1500 is always. I mean, we'll ask this to them. It's always a highlight for us. You know, 1500. Everybody. The mile. The glory of it.
Want to see a mile.
Right.
Yeah.
We're big steeple fans, so we like both steeples. There was an Ivy League kid obviously in the steeple, so
he's in the final now.
Yeah,
He's on the raw, and that was
should be.
I just raced him in the 10K, and he asked me how I did afterwards. That's what he wanted. Well, but thank you. But he's a great guy. We're happy to see him do well. Yeah, but I'd say the 5K is probably my favorite as well.
Okay. And so where else did you stop?
Well, we started out in Peoria in the Steamboat Classic, which, you know, Pat runs every now. He's running, you know, in the lead group. He was 13th in the race, really using it as a hard tempo run. Then we went to Mount Rushmore and had a tremendous run in Nicholson Trail in Hill City. We then went to Wyoming, to Jackson, and got a tour of the Tetons Park from an Olympian. Anne-Marie Lecco lives there now.
Wow.
So she took us around, and
she was the 96 and 2000, and then 5K, then the marathon.
The marathon in 92.
Oh, marathon in 92, and then
5,000 in 2000.
Okay.
She actually dropped down in
She dropped down in distance, right? So she took us around and showed us, you know, gave us the lay of the land, told us where to run. It was terrific. Then we went to a teammate's of Pat's.
Yeah, we went to Spokane, Washington. I have a teammate who lives there, so we just stayed with the family and showed them around a little bit. Then Eugene. We brought my teammate to Eugene, and we had a huge Columbia contingent there. Kyle Merber was running there. He just set the American Cruise record in the spring.
Got a 12 more.
Right. 12 more, yeah. So his training has been a little inconsistent this year, so he had a little bit of a rough patch in there. Like, didn't make the finals at nationals, and you know, didn't get out of the prelims at the trials. But you know, well in college season and everything, he ended up winning the U23 NACAC in Mexico City. But yeah, we so he was there, so we had a lot of people that came and just hung out for a week and camped out and stuff, and used our hotel room to shower when we would go for runs.
We had a large Philadelphia contingent in addition to the Columbia contingent. Fred Rosenfeld was there, Fran Rizzo was there, a whole group of people that I've run with over the years. So we had lots of coaches. It was terrific. It was a magical time.
Sure. So on the way back, you stopped at a few distance runner hotbeds also.
Several, yeah.
Yeah.
We basically went down the California coast. We ran in the Redwood Forest, which is a highlight. Then we went along the Pacific Coast Highway down to LA, visiting teammates and such. And then the first real highlight running-wise was Mammoth Lake, which like Terrence Mahan's group was there. He's a Nova guy and was originally from Ardmore, or not originally, but lived in Ardmore for a long time with his wife Ben Ryan. And his brother owns Philadelphia Runner. So, you know, we went there. Terrence was actually going to London, or to Europe, I guess. So we didn't get to see him, but, you know, 8,000 feet, and we actually went on a run there. It took us, I saw like a road that went up to these lakes, like, you know, a couple loops around there that I saw. and didn't know what the elevation was though. So we get like 2.5 miles into this run, and it's pretty flat, and you're like, all right, whatever, and then just climb for 2.5 miles straight. I mean, you're up, and it was brutal. He didn't make it up, and I barely did. And I got up, and then by then, you know, you're up top, and there's a couple little inclines up and down as you're going up to different lakes. But then you just come down, and it was beautiful. We climbed from like 7,800 to like 8,900 feet. So it was brutal, but
Beautiful but brutal.
yeah,
it was
absolutely
just very, very spectacular. The lakes were beautiful, the woods were beautiful, everything about it was fabulous except for its fun.
Way to throw your dad under the bus.
Then on the way back, after some stops along the way, we stopped in Las Vegas because we have to see Las Vegas, of course, on the road trip. We then went to Boulder. And we spent over a week in Boulder. I spent a week, Pat spent a little over a week, and we stayed with friends there. Mark Flatchis, who was the '93 world champion marathon gold medal winner. He's been a friend, so we stayed at his house, and he took us on runs from there. One of the great runs was Magnolia Road.
Yeah, we went on Magnolia Road, which is at 9,000 feet. And we climbed. I mean, we started at 8,500, and we went up to 10,000. And the whole way out was just tough. And I was actually, like, obviously it's tough, but, you know, you get used to it, like, the altitude. Like, being up that high, first 3 miles were brutal, and, you know, started getting into it, and even the uphills, you know, on the way back. But that was good. I ran on the Mesa Trail, which is like kind of a must. It was really technical, actually. Really tough. Because the way I started, you just go, like, 3/4 of a mile uphill, and then you're rolling, and there's one spot where you're, like, going up steps. It was really slow, but it was nice. And then, you know, went on a long run with Mark there. That was great. And we saw a lot of friends there. We know a lot of people, so we can take that. They're most of your friends.
Yeah, right. We saw Brendan Riley, who has had, up until today, had the last 4 consecutive women Olympic gold medal winners as an agent.
Okay.
He's been a friend for many years. He has been